What's up, A to Z Sports Nashville? Happy Monday. Joined this morning by Zach Bingham, and it's an Easton and Zach show talking all about a weekend of news regarding the Colorado Pro Day, talking about what the Titans did and didn't do with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter at their Pro Day and then their private workout, which, spoiler, was canceled over the weekend. What does that mean for what the Titans are messaging? Have they finally given up the ghost on their infatuation for Cam Ward? Are we done playing games? Are we not wasting anybody's time anymore? That's what we're diving into this morning, and I'm looking forward to talking about it all. Zach, before we get started, tell the folks what they need to do.
Yeah, let's share the show. A big show on this Monday as we get closer and closer and closer towards the NFL draft, and finally they can submit their card, and we can stop predicting the ins and outs of what could happen, what is going to happen, and what will happen. But we got to share the show first. We are broadcasting live on 3 different platforms, including Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Make sure you're locked in there. We will tweet out link by link, segment by segment on our X handle at A to Z Sports. If you're a Titans fan, make sure you lock in and you follow us there. If you're an NFL fan overall, A to Z Sports NFL on X. Make sure you hit us up there and follow us there. So Twitter is done. You have to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is the easiest way to get these live streaming shows, whether it's the morning show, whether it's prime time, whether it's the game day shows that we do. We're going to have draft coverage all around the draft in Green Bay, whether it's there or around the facility or whether here live on YouTube. Make sure that you have that subscription made, checked off, because it's easy. A to Z Sports Nashville. Search us on YouTube and subscribe, like this show, and also ring the bell to get live alerts when we go live. Facebook, what's going on? Facebookers, bottom left corner of your screen. Share now to public. Caring is sharing, and sharing is share. Or caring is sharing, and sharing is caring on this show. That's what we say each and every show. So let's have a great show on this Monday morning. Ready to get this party started. A little Shedeur action. Less Cam today, a little bit more Shedeur. Impact is going to be happening on the NFL, whether it's either of those quarterbacks. Let's discuss.
The chat is already all over it with the buzz saying you're looking clean. When did we buzz the head?
I knew that. I was waiting on that because the last time they saw me was on Monday. Buzz City came around Tuesday, and then I shaved my beard. But people who have watched the show should know that I am a man of many masks. Sometimes I have long hair. Sometimes I get drug in the chat because of my haircut. Today, actually, it's not as bad as I thought.
No, I'm mostly positive, so that's a good thing. Let's get it started officially here. Welcome into the A to Z Sports Morning Show, live on a Monday morning, every weekday morning at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links tweeted out segment by segment on our Twitter feed at ATOZ Sports. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for all of our Titans coverage. Also, leave a 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports when you get the chance. Got to thank our sponsors for making the show happen and helping out you guys at home. Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedics and sports medicine, boneandjointtn.org. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. All right, Zach. So over the weekend, it was on Friday that the Titans were out in Boulder, Colorado for the Colorado Pro Day. A larger contingent than was previously planned. We had Chad Brinker, who we knew or thought we knew wasn't going to be there, ended up going. He was one of a couple of people who ended up going that weren't originally planning on going. And the talk that day on Friday was, why are the Titans sending more people than they were planning on sending? Is this to show face? Is this to keep up appearances? I think Paul Karski reported that the media team also made that trip when they infamously made the trip to Miami. What does that mean? And all of that talk lasted about 18 hours, because on Saturday, it was announced via Jim Wyatt that after Colorado's Pro Day, Titans brass met with Shedeur Sanders' camp, and the parties agreed to cancel the upcoming private workout, which was scheduled for this current week. The Titans have seen 4 years of game film, scouted multiple games, and now attended a Pro Day that they described as very impressive. So, Zach, when you saw this, the totality of those 2 days of news, what's your general reaction to kind of that whiplash reaction?
Well, I think it was a little bit of a scramble, right? Because you have things were being reported prior, and then the actual pro day of what happened. I think doing their due diligence, that is the key of every offseason general manager or franchise brass, as we say, is we've got to do our due diligence. Do they love ball? Are they smart above the shoulders? Can they make all of the throws? Do they have the arm strength of an NFL quarterback that it takes, because corners are faster and quicker and stronger and can intercept you at any point, right? And I thought my reaction was, overall, and we'll kind of get to the point of what the next steps are, but I think you go full process because you never know what is going to happen. The Titans have not, and I thought, we talked about the report, and you all should go read Easton's article from last week about due diligence of the Titans franchise on Cam Ward and what they've done. I think they've done that more effectively and efficiently, I would say, than in years past, especially when it comes to a franchise quarterback. We all know the drama of the fall of Will Levis in the second round and then trade up and all of that. I think that they have done a good job researching who they are going to pick. This is also a part of that research, because you never know until the Titans come out clearly and say, we're picking Cam Ward. Don't talk to us. Don't pick up a phone. We don't want to talk to you about the number 1 overall pick. We're done. We've already made our selection. Until that happens, there could be a scenario where the Giants or the Browns, again, get desperate and they call and give 2 future first-round picks for a pick swap, and because they love Cam Ward and they have an opportunity. Until that happens, I think you have to look at it. And Travis Hunter is a part of this picture as well, Easton, right? He was present in this pro day too. And so we all know Travis Hunter and the unbelievable athlete and player he is. If you're in a scenario where you could draft him, you want to know all about it. But they're playing the games are being played. We can see it from afar. There comes a point in time where everyone else understands you're playing games and they don't want to play them anymore, right? So that's kind of what I took back from the weekend. And then obviously you have the scheduling change on the other side of it that I think was impactful as well.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the games of it all. It's a lot of game playing. And, for them to have announced at the owners' meetings that Chad Brinker wouldn't be there, we here at A to Z Sports alluded to the fact that Brian Callahan wasn't going to be there the week prior. So we knew a couple of the figureheads weren't going to go. There was a third figurehead that wasn't reported on that we knew wasn't going to go. And then that guy ended up going, and Chad Brinker ended up going. Brian Callahan still did not end up going, but you had more firepower there than you previously had planned on having. And that change was made kind of last minute too. That was a Thursday or Friday decision for those guys to go out to, let's be honest about this, to keep up appearances, to show face in Boulder. I tweeted out on Friday, sometimes you got to go to Boulder just to be seen in Boulder, man. And that's what they were doing out there. I would imagine that the conversation about changing the schedule probably happened in Boulder. And I would guess the Titans camp and the Sanders camp got together and chatted like you do at a pro day. And they were like, let's lay it all out here. You're not taking either of these guys, are you? And they're like, no, we're not. We're taking Cam Ward. And they're like, that's fine. Cool. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate you guys making the trip. We won't drag you back out here in 5 days or 4 days or whenever the pro day or whenever the workout is supposed to be. We don't want to waste our time. You don't want to waste your time. There's no point in doing this. And while I thought on Friday that the Titans sending more people out there was exclusively a face-saving measure, that, the media, people at A to Z Sports are writing about how the pick is Cam on Wednesday. We gotta keep the ruse up. I now, in hindsight, kind of wonder if they had maybe had communication during the week with the Sanders camp and said, we're kind of leaning, maybe we'll cancel the private workout because the cat's out of the bag. And, we want to get our guys out there at least once. So we're going to get out there once for you. Cause all of these guys were going to go to the private workout, Brian Callahan included, everyone. And so I kind of feel like they said, let's get out there once, say hello, shake some hands, do the due diligence, do the full process. Hey, we attended the pro day. We saw these guys in person. We saw Shedeur get to throw, which we haven't gotten to see all offseason long, and then we can be done from there and move on with what is obviously happening.
Why do you think they're not coming out and just saying and telling the world that they're going to draft Cam Ward like you told the world last week?
The league office, because you got to play the game. And
but they're playing the half-ass game.
They are.
Yeah, I understand the game, but now you're canceling workouts. You're like, stop. Like there's a league game. What the Bears didn't play that league game with Caleb Williams last year, right?
You play it until it's impossible to play it. I think this is the point.
It's turned impossible.
Well, and I think, I mean, honestly, I think because and again, this is not reporting on my part. This is just based on educated guess and some conversations that I've had in the past, that the league office cares, number one, above all, not even close, about the bottom line. We know this. And the bottom line here is the multi-million-dollar television show that they're going to put on Thursday night here in a couple weeks. And they don't want that spoiled as best they can. And so the directive to these teams is to, even if you know, act like you don't know. And that's a part of this. And the Titans are certainly not one of the teams in the NFL that is inclined to go against what the league office wants. They want to be good soldiers about this. And so I think that, honestly, my guess is that if the Sanders camp hadn't been in favor of canceling the private workout, which I'd imagine they probably were, because they don't seem like a group that likes to waste their time or like play these games. They seem to just kind of march to the beat of their own drum out there in Colorado, which I can respect that. I feel like the Titans probably would have just gone along with, we'll go back out there for the private workout. But when they said, let's cancel it, and the Titans maybe saw an out of, well, what are we supposed to do? They wanted to cancel it. We'll just give up the ghost here. And I think this is the moment this past weekend when it became impossible to ignore. With the Bears last year, you occasionally get draft cycles where it is impossible to ignore very early because there's a clear number one pick. And I think that was the case with Caleb Williams when people were talking about him like a generational prospect, whether he was or wasn't. And so the NFL media machine has to kind of find a pivot. And in that draft class last year, the pivot narratively was, well, is Caleb Williams really a better prospect than Jaden Daniels or Drake May? Because they get some other really talented receivers in this class. So, okay, yeah, we get it. The Bears are going to take Caleb at 1. That seems to be pretty obvious in freaking February or whenever it was. But is it the right decision? And that becomes the talking point. With the Titans, they have been able to maintain up until 2.5 weeks before the draft here that we don't know. We don't know. And even like we reported on it, or like I wrote about last week on A to Z Sports, how it's pretty much been the case that Cam's the pick now for 1, 2, 3 weeks, maybe dating all the way back to when they visited with him after the combine. They have managed to drag that out from a league standpoint. And I think that's been what they wanted to do.
All right. I think all those points are valid. So the NFL is shifty. It adapts. It evolves. It always has. That's why it's so successful. Why are they not shifting to the Cleveland Browns? All right. One's done. Let's get some other intrigue.
I think they are.
About other opportunity.
I've heard a lot about the Browns over the weekend, about how I've heard out of the mouths of some of these insiders who have done a lot of this pushing of the narrative. Hey, the Browns are where this draft starts. It starts at 2, and the Browns have been very mysterious, and the Browns have done their part for the league because the Browns have been one of the hardest teams to pin down this draft cycle. I remember in February into the beginning of March, Adam Schefter was going on his podcast talking about how the thing he was the most confident about at that point was that the Browns were going to take one of the quarterbacks. There was going to be some quarterback taken by the Browns at 2, and they'd just be happy with whoever, which didn't make sense to people with a brain at the time, in my opinion. But it's what he was pushing, and it was the going narrative. And now we have spent the last 3-ish weeks talking about, Abdul Carter. They got a private workout with Abdul Carter. They had him. One of the only private visits that Carter did, one of the only 30 visits that Carter did was to the Browns. And the owner was meeting with Abdul Carter, apparently, and all of these things. And then now, just in the past week or so, it has shifted again to everything we're hearing from inside the walls of the rumor mill is that the Browns are in on Travis Hunter, and they see him as the generational prospect in this draft and a talented enough player that you just can't pass up on when you can't get the quarterback. And yeah, they would have loved to go get Cam Ward at 1, but that's just not going to happen. And at the owners' meetings, the GM and the coach basically alluded to as much. That's very unlikely. So they've shifted now to, while it would be nice to pair Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett, that'd be cool. we just see Travis Hunter as this impossible person to pass up on. So they have a real blender of narratives going in the past month or so. And I think that's going to be the juice that gets us over the finish line here from a national talking point standpoint.
Yeah, I want to get to our title and Shedeur, but D'Lo brings up something we talked pre-show. Did the Titans cancel or did Shedeur Sanders cancel?
We don't know. I mean, I don't know. Can find out later, but I currently do not know. If I had to guess, this feels like it was probably floated by the Sanders camp, and the Titans camp was like, yeah, that's fine. Because I don't think the Titans. Yeah,
so if it's mutually agreed upon, nobody cancel. There's not one side.
Right. I'm going to guess the Colorado camp was like, well, listen, if you guys really want to do it, we'll do it. But like, let's be real about this. Can we just be real and not waste time? And the Titans camp said, okay, yeah.
When you're dating, what are the real chances this is going to go anywhere? Are we going to get married or is this just a fling? Let's just get this out now. If this is a fling, then we can go on our merry ways and just call it what it is and maybe not have to do the fancy dinner at Morton's or the Palm, right? Because that's going to be a waste of time and money if this is a fling. But if this can go a little bit further, which obviously Shedeur and the Titans, that's not trending, nor was it trending prior to the pro deal or the pro day and afterwards, right? So I think we're all there. I think it's, go ahead.
I just want to mention one bit of news that did come out of the pro day, just kind of that solidifies the clear and obvious Cam Ward of it all. Jeff Howe, NFL insider with The Athletic, wrote up a piece after the pro day that I think he attended, titled Colorado Pro Day, Travis Hunter is unlocked as a top 5 pick, but could Shedeur Sanders fall? And we're going to talk about the could Shedeur Sanders fall part here in just a moment. But a quote from that article, the Browns and Giants have inquired about the Titans' interest in trading down, according to league sources, but the Titans haven't even determined the level of compensation they'd require to consider such a move. So that's the first time that I have seen somebody, besides us kind of winking and nodding here on the morning show the past couple of weeks, say explicitly in writing that the Titans, there's not even been any hard conversation about what that price would be. In other words, the Titans' asking price for a while now has been, send us your kingdom, everything you got, and then maybe we'll consider it. But otherwise, we're not talking. And we have not done any hammering out of, well, would it be this second? Or, would you give up this first instead of the pair of second? Like, no, it's just been send us everything. And no team has come close to even entertaining that. And so the Titans haven't entertained it, I think, really since the Combine. I think the Combine, if I had to guess based on what I know, I think that was the last time the Titans seriously were considering and talking out with some real variables what a trade might look like. And then they met Cam Ward in that suite in Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis for the 18 minutes of allotted time. And from there on out in late February, it's been, you guys better blow us away. And no one's come close.
So I have a revenge scenario on the other side. And I go back to a video between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders early on in this process a couple of months ago that I think is ringing in my mind. We'll all see what happens, right? What plays out at the end of this month in the NFL draft. But I'm going to throw out a revenge scenario here real quick, but tell everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute first.
Yeah, absolutely. Our friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute are the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and surgical care. They believe that when you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust. And the Bone and Joint Institute are those folks that you can trust, located right here in Franklin off of I-65 with over a dozen specialists who can help you through any type of injury. They have a state-of-the-art rehab facility on campus to help you recover. They can do everything under one roof for your convenience: clinic, testing, imaging, surgery, and rehab. To schedule an appointment, go to boneandjointtn.org.
Make sure you like, subscribe, and give that Lou Man 5-star special on Google. We saw a couple of 5 stars roll in over the weekend. We appreciate each and every one. Just go to Google A to Z Sports, give us a review, a 5-star review. It is called the Lou Man 5-star special because Louis 007 Lou Man put a 1-star. And so we've got to fight fire with fire. That means the chat can rise up and give us better ratings on Google. We appreciate each and every review. All right, Easton, do you remember when, and I don't know the exact date, but Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders were throwing together? and they were documenting it. They were talking trash back and forth. And you really, for the first time through this draft process, got to see both of their personalities. It honestly came across as Cam Ward was the guy who was like, if you screw me over, I'll screw you over twice. That's at least how it was portrayed. Like, you better not miss on me or I'm going to make you pay. And I think that was a personality where I think Shedeur and Dion and just the growth of what all they've been through, whether it's Jackson State or Colorado or all the transfers, I think they were a little bit more level-headed and less revengeful. But look, it has worked out positively for Cam Ward of that revenge seeker. He's done it from being, not recruited to just his journey overall, right? And where he is now. But I think a future revenge scenario, the Sanders also don't forget. And Dion has come out and said that he thinks 1 and 2 needs to be Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter in whatever order the teams fall in. That I don't think is going to play out in Dion's world. But Dion was also a revengeful player, right? Is to make sure he made the other team that passed up on him or trade him away pay. And I think Shedeur is the same way. And this is one of those scenarios that wherever Shedeur goes, and we're going to talk about that here shortly, the revenge factor on the league, we've seen Brady do it. We've seen players that have fallen, Aaron Rodgers do it, right? I mean, the list goes on. Do you feel like Shedeur is one of those guys that is the never forget type of guys? And then you also have like the players that just like Eli Manning didn't have, or Phillip Rivers didn't have like this angst towards the Giants or vice versa, right? Like that wasn't a storyline. But I think of how far Shedeur has fallen over the last several months in draft stock. I think there is a revenge game of his career that he will have that Billy Madison list per se in lipstick to make sure that he seeks out the revenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he is somebody that fits that mold. And I think unless you're like a Marcus Mariota type, a Malik Willis type in terms of personality, I think pretty much all NFL quarterback types are like that, and some more than others. And I think Shedeur is because of the way that his father was in the NFL and kind of the culture, the brand that they have already built for him. And I think that he's going to be on the higher end of that. I can totally see, the Sunday Night Football pre-show package where they're doing a sit-down interview with him on Wednesday, and he's like, yeah, every morning I wake up, I brush my teeth, and then I write down the name of the quarterbacks that got drafted ahead of me kind of deal, that cheesy thing that we do.
Ross St. Brown.
The Amon-Ra St. Brown special is what we call that lately. He did it so much, it got really old. I think that wasn't all his fault. Reporters, every different reporter that interviewed Amon-Ra St. Brown asked him that same question. Yeah, no, I'm not blaming him. The media drug that story until it was dead. So that was on us or them or whoever. But yeah, I definitely think Shedeur will be that way. And that's why I think talking about, which we're going to kind of examine here, how far he is likely to fall in this draft class is a fascinating discussion because, maybe he falls into the back half of the top 10. Maybe he falls into the back half of the first round. It's kind of hard at this point to pinpoint. If I tell you, hey, he's not going to be a Titan or a Brown or a Giant, he's going to fall past those first three. The bottom is not immediately clear.
Yeah,
right?
the cliff is steep, so that goes right into our question to get the chat involved. I am very curious to see where the chat resides on this. How far do you think Shedeur Sanders will drop in the NFL draft? So we're going to help you out. We're going to help us out too. Here is the draft order. How far do you think Shedeur Sanders will drop? You got Tennessee, Cleveland, and New York, Easton, as you mentioned. After that, the cliff gets steep. New England has a quarterback. Jacksonville has a quarterback. Geno Smith is now just signed an extension with the Las Vegas Raiders, so they have a quarterback. The New York Jets, Justin Fields, they have a quarterback. Carolina, they think they have a quarterback, maybe, could be, possibly. New Orleans, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because you've got New Orleans, you've got San Francisco, you've got Dallas, Miami. I mean, all of them have quarterbacks, but what do they think about their quarterback? Indianapolis, they drafted a quarterback in Anthony Richardson. He's no good. It gets steep. And so how far do you think Shedeur Sanders will fall? That is the question. Easton, I'm going to let you go to the chat to see what everybody has to say. Here's one real quick. Brian says second round. Ooh. That would be a monumental fall. You talk about a revenge circuit for Shedeur and the Sanders family. If he falls to the second round, that would be by far the story of the draft.
Yeah, I want to revisit that idea here in a minute. But first, let's see what the chat had to say. D'Lo says 9. He thinks the Saints are the pick. Ira Hoshi says 11, which is I forget who is 11, whoever 11 is. Donnie says pick 3. He's still going to be a Giant. Aubrey says the Steelers. Giant, according to Chill Mode. Saint, according to D'Lo. Saint, according to Corey. Steven says the Jets are a sneaky team at 7. Matt says he won't make it past the Raiders at 6. Don agrees not past the Raiders or the Jets at 6 and 7. 21 to the Steelers, according to Daniel. 21 is the Steelers, says Steven. So a lot of the same answers here. It's the same usual suspects of teams. Raiders. 12 to is that the Cowboys? That'd be exciting. Reynolds says if he doesn't go 6 or 9, then he's potentially going to free fall. Justin agrees that it's going to be second round. D'Lo 9 or 3. Day 2, according to Tall Texan, who really hates Sanders, has made that part clear for a while now. Number 9. 21 is the furthest with the Steelers, no farther than 9. So it's the same like 4 or 5 answers here. Is it the Raiders? Is it the Jets? Is it the Saints? Is it the Steelers? Those are the popular 4 answers, and I think that those are the most likely things to happen. But Zach, maybe we can pull this back up. How far do you think Sanders could fall in your opinion?
I think Las Vegas is very intriguing because of the Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix Jr. feature, right? Is like you have a quarterback, but you draft a quarterback to help. And life comes at you sometimes quicker than you think. Is Geno Smith going to be the Geno Smith 30 touchdown quarterback he was, over the last couple of seasons, but not enough, right? Here's one thing that we have not mentioned. One name that we have not mentioned. Jackson Dart. Now, I'm an Ole Miss guy, went to Ole Miss. I'm not high on Jackson Dart. I don't think that
I'm very low.
Is the prospect. I just think that there's a drop-off. And the drop-off is clear, at least to me. Then you have 2 guys that I think are similar. I think Cam Ward has cemented himself to be the better quarterback just because we know more about him, right? Over a longer period of time against higher competition. Shedeur had a terrible offensive line, was check down Charlie at times, right? Short passes, but won games at 2 different places that were hard to win games. So you can't discredit there. Jackson Dart had a very good head coach in Lane Kiffin to design an offense around. I mean, that again, none of these are the quarterback's fault. It's just the situation. But desperate teams usually reach. The Titans were desperate and reached for Will Levis. There was no reason to draft Will Levis. Now, again, the results are in. Hindsight 2020. The results are in, and Will Levis stinks, right? He's always stunk. He never won anywhere he went. He didn't win at Penn State, didn't win at Kentucky, didn't win at the Titans, right? So, here we are. I think Jackson Dart, if a team falls in love with Jackson Dart, which may happen, that obviously hurts Shedeur. I think the perfect scenario for Shedeur is the New Orleans Saints. I think it is primo. You get a fan base that will rally around him. I think they like the flash and all of the lights that come. They're looking for somebody other than Drew Brees to come save them. I think Shedeur, it can be his franchise. They need a fresh start. Shedeur Sanders and the New Orleans Saints make the most sense to me. Plus, is Baker going to be consistent? Is Michael Penix Jr. actually going to be what we saw in the second half of the year? Missed the playoffs and didn't get an opportunity to shine. And then the Carolina Panthers are still, a disaster. So, it's a division that historically flips pretty regularly, the most flipped division in the history of the NFL since restructuring in 2002. The Saints make perfect sense if you get there.
Yeah, that's my pick as well. So we're in agreement that Saints at 9 makes sense. I tweeted like 2 weeks ago, oh no, Shedeur Sanders is going to fall to the Saints at 9 and he's going to be a steal for them, and he is. And I think all of your points are valid. The point that I think is the most valid is the fact that they need a get out of jail free card. They've needed one for a couple of years now. They are the team that every year actively demonstrates how stupid people are that think the cap is not real. No, the cap is very real. Go talk to the New Orleans Saints. It has kept them in hell now for 3 or 4 years, and it's going to keep them in hell for the next foreseeable future, let's say. And a guy like Sanders, a rookie contract quarterback, is the kind of thing that it's really one of the only things that could fast track them getting out of the hell that they put themselves in when they're currently paying. I mean, against the cap, you've got Derek Carr costing like $70 million or whatever the heck it costs, and it gets more and more every year. So Sanders would be a perfect pick for them at 9. It would play out so, because tell the Saints on January 30th that they're going to end up having Shedeur fall into their laps. They'd tell you there's no shot that happens. So I think that this plays out perfectly for them to have that guy fall to them. They have a lot of draft picks in this class. I think it's the most draft picks that the Saints have had in a draft class since their legendary 2017 draft class, where they had like 4 All-Pros in the same class, probably the best draft class maybe ever. So they have a lot of swings of the bat. If they wanted to spend their first round pick on a quarterback, they could still definitely address other needs down the road. It's not like they have to get a certain position with this first pick. They need a lot of things, and they have a lot of picks to address those positions. And with Sanders, I think that he is a very good stylistic fit to play in a system designed for Derek Carr and to play behind Derek Carr. He is a sit candidate for me. I think that him sitting and taking some time to learn behind a veteran is what would be best for him and his development, as a guy who believes in him, by the way. I think that him sitting for a year behind Carr would be great. And if they drafted him, that would be the case. They would still be playing Carr this year. And I just think it works way too well. I also still kind of refuse to believe that this free fall is coming, just because I mean, my evaluation of him is that he's worth the top 10 pick as a quarterback. That's just how I feel. And so I think
the Saints check that box, right?
Exactly. And if he falls past the Saints, I really do think it's like, I don't know where he goes to, because I don't think the Steelers would take him.
I got 2 questions for you.
So I don't think the Steelers would take him.
Questions for you, Easton. Why have the Giants cooled? Why is this not the easiest pick in the world of a franchise that desperately needs a quarterback? There's the second quarterback is still on the board at 3. Why are the Giants not salivating at Shedeur Sanders, a cerebral player in a massive market that is dying to get back to Eli Manning status of a quarterback that can actually win games?
And they may be. I'm not ruling out the Giants at 3. Like, I don't know for sure they're not taking him. I know that the current rumor direction is that they probably aren't, but that changes on a weekly basis, it feels like. So who knows? If I had to guess, if you told me for sure they're out right now and you're asking me why are they out, I don't know. I think maybe there's something to do with what we talked about, I think, last week, where despite what seems to be a pretty popular notion that drafting a rookie quarterback highly can buy you time, historically the opposite is the case. Drafting a rookie quarterback highly does nothing but accelerate everyone's timeline and probably gets you fired. And this Giants regime, both GM and head coach, are about as pre-fired as anybody is in the NFL right now. I mean, they are on the thinnest of ice. And so I don't really know what they're thinking about in terms of self-preservation. But if you told me that they were thinking, well, we're not sure about Shedeur, and we are pretty sure that if we draft him at 3, he's going to be playing right away, and we are pretty sure that if he's playing right away, he's going to get us fired, and we don't want to do that, that would make some sense to me.
So who are you going to go to war? You're going to go to war with Russell Wilson?
I know. Well, and you saw Russ last year. I think that they probably see a higher floor with Russ and probably definitely a lower ceiling
to get him to the playoffs. Because if they make the playoffs, their jobs are saved.
They're probably going to try to replicate
in New York. I don't even know if that's the case.
No, I know, but I think they're probably going to try to replicate what the Steelers did with Russ and hope to win. If they can win 9 games and pull it out of nowhere, then they may. Listen, I agree that they're pre-fired, but then again, they should have been fired last year. And the Mara family, the Giants ownership, they are among the most patient, process-oriented people in the league. They were too patient last time. Who's to say that they won't continue to be too patient? I don't know.
Well, and that's the pushback. I think you'd rather draft Shedeur Sanders to get some juice, because if Shedeur Sanders makes the playoffs for you, you keep your job.
I know. I think they're screwed.
You 9 keep ways your job more likely if Shedeur gives you the playoffs than Russell Wilson.
I see all bad options for this group. You're right. You're right about that. That if Shedeur was the team, even if you just missed the playoffs, even if you got to 500 with Shedeur, it's like, well, there's some really promising things there.
You're playing with house money. Play with it.
Yeah. No, I know. That's the other thing is, are they really playing with house money? Because at this point, I would not be surprised if ownership has these guys on such a short leash that maybe the coaching staff is like, give us Shedeur. We want Shedeur. And the ownership is like, we're not giving you guys the latitude to try to decide the next quarterback of this franchise.
But they're both on the hot seat. So
I know
the guy making the decision is on the hot seat.
No, I'm saying ownership telling the GM, hey, we don't want you picking this guy.
Well, did you watch the Hard Knocks last year? Giants?
Not all of it, but some of it, yeah.
What you learned, what I learned at least, is he more let them do their business. He would ask questions.
Right.
The Saquon Barkley thing was fascinating because it was like, oh man, we don't. But the general manager was convincing to the owner, and that's kind of what you have to do. You've got to sell your owner of your vision to let me work. If the owner trusts the employee, the employee should be able to make the decision. If they don't, then that's another story.
I hear you. I really do wonder if the narrative disaster that was that Hard Knocks, and the reason why no team is ever going to do that version of Hard Knocks ever again. That was told to me in August, by the way, as it was coming out by another person in the league. They were like, no one's ever doing this ever again. It's a disaster. That makes me wonder if the owner was like, all right, it's time for me to step in here. I won't let this happen again. I won't let them convince me on their way again, because it didn't work.
All right. I'm going to ask you another question about Shedeur, because I think this is the second half, but you just made me think of something. Here's an analogy for you. The reason why teams don't want to do Hard Knocks is because we are so entertained by, in this case, the New York Giants dysfunction. We're so entertained by it and them trying to get straight and narrow that when it breaks up, it's not surprising, right? Like, we know more and nobody wants to reveal it. It's like, and this is something that I loathe. I got a list of things that I hate. One of them is
really?
TikTok couples. Hate TikTok couples. They're the worst, right? Yeah. But we watch them because of their entertainment or lack thereof value and their dysfunction. But when they break up, they should go on their TikTok lives and tell us what happened. Why were you so unhappy? Because on the screen, it didn't look that bad, right? But that was all a facade. So nobody wants to be the TikTok couple, those miserable people. Nobody wants to be that, because when they break up, you have a right to the public to tell why. what happened the other day. You don't get to post a note on your IG story, respect our privacy. That's not how this works. Your privacy wasn't respected when you were putting out all those BS cooking videos with your husband or your wife. So that's how I look at Hard Knocks. Nobody wants to be a part of it. All right, I got that off my chest.
The reality TVification of our society is just ruining us. It's ruining us.
It makes my blood boil at times, and you're scrolling, and look, it comes across, right? It's the feed. I blame the feed, not the follow. The other thing that I was going to ask, if Shedeur falls, 21 was a big one with Pittsburgh, right?
Don't see it.
Do you see another team then trading up? Like, this could be a meteoric Will Levis fall, right?
Right. Well, let's go team by team, right? So after the Saints, Chicago, not happening. San Fran.
I just think they're
they can't.
Maybe, but they're in a restructure phase.
Yeah,
right?
they I don't think they can. It gives me pause, but I don't think they can. Dallas, you never know because they're crazy, but no, they're paying
because of Joe Milton,
$1 billion. Right, good point. Miami, not crazy.
I think that makes sense.
Sneaky.
But they just signed Tua.
Yes, but they already are looking for an escape hatch a little bit. I think they're eyeing the escape hatch.
Here, I'm going to look up Tua's contract real quick. The out is after 2026, so
right. You'd have to sit on him, and maybe that's how they sell it. Is it would be like, hey, we're gonna do the Jordan Love thing with this guy. He needs it. It's gonna be good for him. It's gonna be good for us.
Yeah, dog. They're gonna pay Tua $39 million in 2026.
That's a lot, but it's actually not as. I mean, it's way.
Yeah,
it's like
he's not worth that.
No, he's not. You're right. Indianapolis. It would have made more sense if they hadn't spent as much money on Drew Lock. I don't think they're doing that and adding a third guy. Atlanta, no. Arizona, another sneaky maybe. I like Kyler a lot, and I wouldn't do it, but another sneaky maybe at Arizona. Cincinnati, obviously no. Seattle, I don't see how they do that after what they just did. Tampa Bay, they're happy. Denver is happy with their new guy. Pittsburgh, let's come back to Pittsburgh in a minute. The Chargers, no. The Packers, no. The Vikings.
That you got to know JJ McCarthy before you're drafting.
You're right. But I still am thinking about it. Houston, no. Rams.
The Rams.
Hey.
I think we found, because look, Baltimore, Detroit, Washington, Buffalo, Kansas City, Philadelphia.
Not happening.
Out.
Yep.
They're out. I think the Rams, if 26 to LA, would be a steal.
Mm-hmm. And it would not. I don't think it would be. I think the timeline fits perfectly to where it wouldn't be a direct offense to Matthew Stafford and the new contract they just ironed out with him. This would be purely a succession plan move. And it would be clear that, hey, this guy's going to sit for a year or two or more, Jordan Love style, and we're rolling with Stafford right now, and it's going to be best for everybody involved. I could see it.
And we got people in the chat talking about Jackson Dart.
Also a possibility for them, by the way, in round 2, I'd imagine, but still.
Yeah, Jackson Dart is a second to third round quarterback. He is not a first round.
He will be a second round quarterback, bro. I'm telling you. I mean, Daniel Jeremiah keeps putting him in his first. Don't rule out a late first for Jackson Dart. It could happen.
The Rams, right?
Right.
Or a trade up scenario of you want to draft your quarterbacks in the first round, but you don't want to draft a third round quarterback in the first round.
Usually a bad idea. Right. So can we revisit the Steelers? So we identified the Dolphins, the Cardinals, and definitely the Rams, emphasis on Rams as the potential sneaky teams. The Steelers are the not sneaky team that everybody keeps pointing to. I don't see it at all. I don't think that they are. It's not that I don't think he's a scheme fit or a culture fit or anything like that. I think, he would be a fine fit there. I've not heard even a little bit of smoke from the Steelers on Shedeur, but we have heard smoke from them on the other quarterbacks, namely Jalen Milroe. They seem to love Jalen Milroe. And I don't know if you saw this, Zach.
Yeah, this morning.
Jalen Milroe going to Green Bay for the draft. The NFL this year made a big emphasis on, hey, we're inviting even less. We only invited 13 people to the draft last year. We're inviting even less this year. I think because they're so unsure of who is and is going to be a first rounder, And the NFL personally, they hate when a guy gets Will Levis'd, and it's all that you get the narrative shots of he sits there all night long and he looks sad for a moment and he doesn't get picked.
There has
They
to be
hate
one
that.
sacrificial lamb in the group. I mean,
Well,
right?
Come on down, Jalen Milrow. This year's Jalen Milrow,
right.
because
Jalen
he's going for
Milrow
some reason.
Was never pet. Like they'll actually, I think, treat Jalen Milrow as
with some respect.
Yeah, because like Will Levis at one point we were talking about a top 5 pick.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe one overall.
That's the fall. Nobody thought, I mean, Jackson Dart will be a story. If Shedeur falls to the second round, bless it. That will be a story, right?
He's not going to be there, though. So, but there'll be cameras on him in Colorado.
But Milrow, I think, is I don't want to say a feel-good story. He's got tons of highlights they can play.
Yep. And
I don't think he will be there on Friday, right? Like he's packed multiple suits.
Probably. I mean, listen, things are we didn't think 6 quarterbacks were going in the first 12 picks last year, and then they did. So, and as Drew said in the comments earlier, there's going to be 4 first-round quarterbacks this year, and it's going to be a disaster. That's the timeline I want. I want all 4. That'd be amazing night 1. It'd be amazing for the Titans because it would push 3 guys that shouldn't be into round 2. So, you never know. But with the Steelers, I don't think that they're in on the Shedeur thing. I think that they're a Milrow or Dart discussion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the only reason we've not heard about them with Sanders is purely because they think, or maybe they know, that there's no chance he falls that far, which would kind of align with what we think. We think he's going to be at the 9th pick overall.
Yeah. Before we get to our national championship pick, because I wanted to do that because it's Monday. It's a good time to do that.
Sure.
I want to revert back to what we started the show with. And that is your opinion of Cam Ward. The Titans have gone through their process. They've X'd out Shedeur Sanders. I mean, pretty publicly now, right?
Yes.
Why do you think they got to this point? Was it quarterback desperation that they needed to fix the position that had not been fixed in some time?
Right.
Or was this a true value of the player in person that is going to be leading your franchise? Because we see Jaden Daniels is a great example. He maneuvered last season, regular season and playoffs, with grace. That would be how I would describe it, right? He was confident. You got to know his parents a little bit. Like when you get into that spotlight, you get to know him a little bit more. That's something that we never talk about through this draft process is what's going to happen if they do succeed? Is the success going to go to their head? Are they going to reveal some stories, all that? Why do you think the Titans got to that point? Got to this point, I should say. That would be my question.
It's a very good question, which I will answer right after I tell our audience about our friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law, who we need to mention this morning because a crash can change your life forever, but help is only a click away at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is their fight for justice, and they want to help you 24/7. They can be reached at 615-242-9000. Their team of attorneys believes that you deserve to be paid, and they can meet with you whenever and wherever is most convenient, including virtually over the phone. So visit the website at bartdurham.com for current news, blogs, to contact, or to live chat. They've been in business since 1975, so they have 50 years of experience dealing with all kinds of automobile wrecks, located locally here in Capitol View, Nashville, but they can fight for anybody in Kentucky or in Tennessee that has been in an auto accident. Blair Durham is leading the charge over there, a great Tennessean, Marine veteran, doing things the right way at Bart Durham Injury Law.
A to Z Sports, make sure that you like and subscribe and leave a Lou Man 5-star special Google review. Just Google A to Z Sports. You go to the Google review section. You can write us a note. We've appreciated all the notes and the good reviews so far. I want to get to my question real quick. And honestly, a super chat helps this.
Sure.
First, King VC says, lock in, leave a 5-star review. I'm back. VC's back. So we always appreciate King VC in the super chats. D'Lo says, so in other words, the Titans better hit this Ward pick out of the box now since they didn't even really consider Shedeur. That's if Sanders looks good out of the gate. And we'll find out if he looks good out of the gate. But D'Lo insinuating they better hit this pick.
Sure. So I think the question you asked is one I've gotten in the past week or so, since it's become clear that Cam's the guy. And I think it's the question, right? Was this decision born more of, we got to get a quarterback, let's find the quarterback that we like in this class? Or was it born of, hey, we're taking this guy at 1 because we think that he is the number 1 overall pick. We think that he's the guy that a team should take if they need quarterback and have the number 1 overall pick. And he's worthy of being a number 1 overall pick, not just this year, but in other years, right? To see that caliber of guy. And the answer, I think, and I mean, this is just based on what I know, is that they fully believe that he is that guy, that this is not a decision born of desperation at all. They had options available to them in free agency before the combine when there were trade talks. They could have easily been in on the Sam Darnold conversation, the Matthew Stafford conversation. There could have been more of a Derek Carr conversation, I believe. There were plenty of the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Jameis Winston, all of those guys that they didn't even bark up the tree a little bit, didn't even sniff the tree. Those could have been things they were involved in, and they weren't because they were sold on this guy. And the reason why, to me, and there's plenty of reasons. Obviously, they watched his tape. They did the due diligence. They believe that as a player on film, this guy is a good player. But I think this goes all the way back, Zach, to the conversation that I had with Brian Callahan here on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. My interview with him in January, mid-January, where he talked about his emphasis, and I think by extension, the Titans organization's emphasis on finding a guy with the it factor nervous system that they had been so dearly lacking with Will Levis. We talk about teams all the time swinging, the pendulum swings when you're sick and tired of one thing. Sometimes you go all the way in the other direction. And for the Titans this year, and sometimes it's healthy and sometimes it's not. But I think the Titans this year healthily are saying, we are fed up with a guy that when push comes to shove, when the bullets start flying, they sink instead of swim. We want a guy that swims, that jumps out of the water, that ascends when things get tough. And that's obviously so much easier said than done, finding that guy. But when teams find that guy, we see what happens. Those are the guys that become great and revolutionize franchises. And so the Titans said, we're going to go find a quarterback that has some of that. And with Cam Ward, and this is why I think the combine was a legit, the combine, and then a week later when they had him in for the full day for their 30 visit, that kind of week was the turning point for them from going from, we're considering all our options. We really like some of these non-quarterback guys. We really like the idea of potentially trading down. We're considering the quarterbacks, but that's a process. And then post those 2 visits, behind the scenes, now we kind of know in retrospect, it became, man, send us your kingdom or else we're not talking. And that is because when they met with Cam Ward, and I was told this directly, we had high expectations for him going into those meetings, very high expectations. And they game plan for those meetings and they say, we're going to throw this at him on the board. We're going to show him this clip of his worst play. It makes no sense to us. And we're going to say, explain this. We're going to have him try to recite back calls in the huddle and we're going to get him rattled, try to get him off his spot in the meeting. And they did all of that with him. And in both meetings, despite their high expectations, he still managed to blow them out of the water as a football mind, as a football character, as a guy on the whiteboard, as a guy in a room trying to lead and inspire a group of people. He gave them every green flag they could look for. And I think that the vibe just generally for somebody in that room that had just dealt with a year of Levis and what that was just a splash of cold water in the face. Holy cow. This is what we've been looking for. And that infatuation was very real and very instant. And I think that's the reason, again, paired with the fact that on tape, they believe this guy's real and they like his arm. They think he's a good athlete. They think that he's a strong decision maker. They like that he won everywhere that he went in college. And he's a guy that still seems to be ascending in his development. All of those things stacked on top of the cherry on top, man, this guy, we think that he has the it factor. And you can't manufacture that. You can't teach that. It's really hard to find that. And when you find it, when you think you found it as a team evaluating prospects in the draft, you have to go and take it. You have to go and take it.
So that's pretty interesting. And I one thing that I was really looking at this offseason is how the new Titans leadership was going to handle the primo spot.
Right.
They had the daddy pick, they had the throne, and how they used it, I thought was interesting because they did exactly what you said. They found their prospect. They vetted him. They kept leaning into him. They didn't say anything. They just went about their business. If anybody wanted to call, they could. And then they showed a little bit of their cards by liking this individual, but I think that came naturally. I don't think that was unnatural. And then here we are. They're still not coming out and saying we're going to pick the guy, but we all kind of know that you guys are talking, and you're talking. There's some heavy petting going on.
Okay.
One thing that I thought they could have done, and they didn't. If I'm in the daddy chair, I play the game. I like playing the game because that's the art of negotiation. And if you're in the chair, you can still make the pick unless somebody gives you something, an offer that you cannot refuse, right? I thought they could have gone to free agency, Easton, and flirted hard too. Talked to Sam Darnold, flown him out, increased his tag for Seattle to eventually go with him. Geno, they could have called him up. They could have flown out and talked to him prior to the Raiders, right? And and still not signed anybody. Talk to Russell Wilson, fly in Sierra and the gang. They could have done that, but they didn't, right? Because what I think that would have done, that would have gotten, I think, more things swirling to get better offers.
Yeah.
And you would have understood the true value of the daddy chair of the number 1 overall pick. And they didn't do any of that. And I respect it. They can do whatever they want, right? But that, I think, is something we can learn and take from in the future of how Brinker and Borgonzi and Callahan work. Because there's no greater sign. They could have done all of those things that I said, and they didn't do one of them.
I think that's a great point. The idea that if you and I were running a pre-draft process in this circumstance, and Zach and Easton Brain Trust said from the get-go, we're going to orchestrate this thing so that we get the best possible offer, we would have done it a lot differently.
Why not? Because the question is, why wouldn't you? And I think, to your point, and this is why I said all of that, was what you have found out, and why I think, being reported is they liked Cam, and then they got to know Cam, and then they started to love Cam.
Bingo.
And it all goes back to relationships, because it is a relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it is a real true relationship, whether it is just a working relationship. When you resonate with somebody, you can't fake that.
Nope.
I'm full of analogies today. You go on a bachelor party and you meet one of your best friend's buddies that you've never met, and you just connect. There's no rhyme or reason why, but you're hanging out with this guy. You went to go get lunch, randomly while everybody else did something. Like, all of a sudden, you just have this connection. I feel like that was the organic nature, at least from the outside perspective, of the Titans and Cam Ward. And I respect the fact that they didn't do all the other things that I mentioned to go flirt with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and try to get the most out of it. It is sealed. I think we're starting to, you've said this for a long time, Easton, I'll give you credit, that was their guy. All of their maneuvers along the way and consistently, whether it's the Shedeur, and look, we had another super chat where Brock says, for what it's worth, the Browns canceled their private workout with Shedeur, and the Giants won't have a private workout with Shedeur either. The Titans weren't the only ones. I still think that it is very clear, crystal clear, that the Titans and Cam have a very good relationship. That it's not all about the number 1 pick. I think it's about player and team, that's what you want.
Yeah, the thing that came to mind for me from an analogy standpoint is, I mean, anybody in any walk of life that has hired somebody to be the caretaker of what means everything to them. For an NFL team, when you're bringing in a quarterback to be the guy, you are entrusting to them a 21, 23-year-old guy kind of everything, right? That's just the league that we're in right now. And so if you are hiring a nanny to watch your kids, or if Zach, you're hiring a new head of content at A to Z to be over the baby that you and Austin have built, the resume is nice and it matters. And looking at what on paper this person brings to the table, that's the prereq. But until you get into that Zoom with that person, or you sit down with the nanny that you're going to potentially entrust your children to, if you don't click with that person, you're not going to feel good about that. It's not happening. You need to work with that person from a relational standpoint. And that's what the Titans did. They liked what the guy offered from a prereq standpoint on paper. They liked the tape. They liked what they'd heard from folks secondhand, third hand. And then when they got in the room with the guy and they said, we really need to come out of this blown away. They came out of it blown away and they said, dadgummit, all right, he's our guy. It was impossible to ignore that connection, that thing that worked in that room. It worked.
We'll find out weeks away. I love when it comes to these type of picks, I struggle with the 6th and 7th round. Some guys, they're junkies. They want the right.
Sick,
I like the franchise guy. Are you a franchise guy? And they've asked that question a number of times. We just talked at length during this show. Is Shedeur a franchise guy? And what franchise is asking him that question? Is Jackson Dart a franchise guy? And what franchise is going to give him is Milroe, right? How many hours is he going to be sitting there eating Southeastern egg rolls and appetizers in the draft room, right? Sure. They've got a spread there. I've been there.
Maybe that's why he's going. It's just to enjoy the amenities for as long as he knows he'll be there for a while. So when you're the first pick, you don't get to enjoy it. You sit down for 5 seconds and you walk up there.
You're on a jet. Jet said it.
It's obviously smart.
Well, we'll all find that out. I think it was great discussion. I enjoyed going over the Shedeur scenario, but really even the Cam at the end of this episode was fascinating, and we'll see how it plays out and how much the Titans will continue to lean into Ward from April 7th to the end of the month. Let's get to the national championship. We had good Final Four. Duke blows it at the end, but we're going to get your predictions. Florida or Houston, who wins tonight? But first, Easton, tell everybody about Wilson County Hyundai.
Yeah, you got to make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying experience, located over in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Give them a call, give them a click, go give them a visit over in Lebanon, wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
All right, quick and easy end of show topic. Who will win tonight, Florida or Houston? Houston, defensive juggernaut. I mean, Duke can't even inbound the damn ball. Auburn has a lead at half, and Florida comes fighting back with their roster. I thought this was it was much better than, at least in entertainment purposes, than the women's Final Four, which was blowout.
Right.
You had well-coached Bruce Pearl, great roster in Florida, best player in Cooper Flagg, and best defense in Houston. Mm-hmm. And now you've got defense versus roster. Who wins, the Cougs or the Gators?
You want my answer?
Yeah.
It's the Gators. And this is going to be a good game. I think, to your point, the games that we got in the Final Four were very exciting, both of which I watched all of and enjoyed all of. The reason why I give the nod to Florida, and I think it's close, is because of one man, Walter Clayton Jr. I have seen enough from this guy in the past month. He is the most clutch college hooper that I have seen, and I can't tell you how long. I mean, when it comes time for somebody to take over the game, it's always Clayton. The guy turns into Steph in the final 6 minutes every game. It's incredible. And he's taking ill-advised shots. He's playing ISO way too much. He's making it all about him. But dadgummit, it works. It works. And I think when push comes to shove tonight, he's going to once again take over the game, make the shot or two that matters, and win it for the Gators. And are they also my pick in my bracket? Yes. But this is a part of the reason why is because this guy is just so good, and he has owned March, and I think he owns it tonight.
Some of the chat, Don says Houston. DeMario agrees with you. Florida's winning it all. Houston Cougars, Florida by 2. Ashley's going Florida. Florida's too big. Go Houston from Ramon. Houston from Vanessa. I got Houston from Big Ten Jeff because he hates Florida.
Makes sense.
makes sense because he's Big Ten Jeff. Houston just refuses to lose, in which we saw that.
That's a good point.
Freddie says Houston. Florida from Caleb. Henry goes Houston. Big G goes Gators. I mean, Florida 62-59 or 57, excuse me, from Titans Kyle. So give me there.
A lot of Floridas.
Look, defense wins championships, right? And Houston, this has been their year because they have better offense than they have in the past. Mm-hmm. They've always been a defensive juggernaut, but they have better offense this year. Sharp, that guy can shoot. In the clutch, he makes threes, which has helped.
He's a sharp shooter.
I go roster, and I think Florida will outlast Houston. I think that's the key, is they play, 8, 9 deep at times, right? And when you get fresh legs, especially in a scenario like this, we just want a good game, right? If you don't care about the two, you just want a good game. I am a little bit disappointed because I wanted to see Cooper Flagg. Look, he had his opportunity with the turnaround jumper. Mm-hmm. He was short, but I wanted to see Cooper Flagg in a national championship because that would solidify how great he's still great, regardless of the missed attempt or the botched inbound pass from Duke. Cooper Flagg. Here's a little trivia. I know you may not be a college basketball guy, but Cooper Flagg is one of 4 freshman AP of the year players. Do you know the other 3?
Absolutely not. I'd be guessing NBA players.
Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, and Zion Williamson. So pretty NBA great players. Company.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So we missed that, but Houston earned it. You got to give them credit. They won the game. They hit their free throws. Duke didn't. I don't know. It's going to be a good game. So we both have Florida. There's some Houston in the chat. What a great overall show.
Yeah, it was a great show. It was a last minute casting here, and it went well. So I'm happy to have been here.
Absolutely. Make sure that you like the show. Isn't that right, Easton?
Yeah, got to like the show. Got to subscribe before you go. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe it'll be Austin and I tomorrow, but stay tuned. I'll be back tomorrow at least, and we'll be talking all about, by the way, this week is when The Beast comes out. I don't know for you draft heads out there. Stay tuned. I think Wednesday at The Athletic, Dane Brugler's The Beast comes out. We'll learn a lot of info. We always learn a lot of info from that we didn't previously have on a lot of these prospects. So going to be an exciting week of draft talk. We're back tomorrow to cover it all. Make sure you like and subscribe. For Zach, I'm Easton. We'll talk to you then.
Adios.